All right, picking up where we left off. So he's just met his uncle. He found out all the stories about his uncle being a little bit more wild. We're going to find out why is his uncle here, because his uncle's been gone for like 8 years. Or no, even longer than that. Let's find out. The two men embraced again. If there had been anger in the past, it was gone now. I am in need of a place, brother, Uncle Morty said apologetically. I would earn my bread. I am a good man with horses. Evie's father laughed. Ha! More likely you will work like a horse. Things haven't changed much here in Carbona since you left. The ground grows stones and the rain falls in buckets. Though there is one more mouth to feed. 2 extra hands will be most welcome. You have come in time for the Estra festival, Evie added. There is to be music, song tonight in the Lord's Hall. Evie is too modest, his father said. He leaves out the best part. Lord Rywallow has requested that Evie recite. He says Evie has a voice to match those of the best storers. Who can tell what's a storer? Storer. That's right, it's a storyteller. It's a special name they had for a storyteller. And who remembers why is it so important to even that he become a storer? Why?
It's only like no type of people can leave.
Remember, him and his father are free, but they can't leave the land. So anywhere within the land, they're free, but they can't actually leave. So are they really free?
No.
No, they're not really free.
Yeah, that's
But if he become a storer, that means he would get permission to travel all over and tell stories. So if he became that, he would be free. Yes? Nick?
Did you say modest or honest?
Modest. Modest means like he's not telling you the truth. He really is much better than what he's saying. All right. Uncle Morgan's dark eyebrows shot up in admiration and pride. He honors our family. This young storyteller. What will even Golden Tongue recite? A French romance? Or a tale from King Arthur's days, perhaps? Here in less than an hour of jesting already, Father chided. No, Uncle Morgan protested. I do not jest. Heaven, take me to your festival. It is good to rejoice with Christ at estral time. Then he added, I am obliged to see Rywallow and beg his leave to work on his land once again. It would be wise to ask him after he's had some ale to warm his heart. And if the truth be out, he said with a sigh, I am longing for a celebration myself. Then look at his father. Go along, Ed, his father said. I want you finished working this brown. I will join you later this evening. He ruffled Evan's hair affectionately. I will not be long, for I, too, wish to hear you tell the story, he said with pride. Now, why would he have pride right now that Evan's going to share the story? Why would his dad? Let's back up a little bit. What is pride? If I have pride about something, what do I have? Raise your hand. A few people. So if you say, I take pride in my basketball. What does that mean, you, Davion? Davion? Okay. Nazir, what does it mean? You have control? Control over it, kind of. You have pride about it. You take care, okay? If I am really good at basketball, I take pride, or I take it like I am proud of how good I am at it. Okay? So why would his father say that he has pride for Evan, even though his father's not going up there to recite anything, right? So why does he have this pride instead? Nick?
Because it's his son telling a story and he doesn't even know how to read.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge, dude. You nailed it. His son can't even read, and has learned to tell this whole story just by listening to stories. And then the Lord of the area, who owns all the land, said, hey man, your kid, he's got a really great voice. Can he recite at my big celebration? Can he come up? That's a big deal. His dad's taking a lot of pride in the fact that his son has this gift. Just as, as I take pride if Caden can get a really good grades, or if Hudson, can do something really well. His dad has a lot of pride that his son is special. All right, let's keep going. Here we go. Morgan clapped his arm around Evan's shoulder as they left the little hut and strode up the slope to the hall. Father stood in the open door. See that he stays far from trouble, Evan, he shouted after them. And then he laughed. Evan smiled and waved the last time before he turned. He and his uncle followed the lane to Rye Rollins' den, a stockade wall of logs with shade tops enclosed in the settlement. Inside stood a large, steep roof barn, workshops for the blacksmiths and carpenter, the slaves' hut, and several smaller huts. So let me stop there. So even though, all eyes here, guys, so something there just popped up to me. So one, imagine this. So you're walking up, this is what the city looks like. Literally, there are these giant tree logs that have been shoved in the ground with spikes pointing up to make a giant wall around the town. You come in, you got a giant barn over here for blacksmiths, that's where they make everything, or carpenters. But then it said over here were the slave huts. So even though his family isn't free because they can't leave the land, are there still people that have a worse situation than him? Because imagine, even though he can't leave the land, he's still free to do whatever he wants here, right? But then there's a slave hut here, so that tells me there's slaves that are not allowed to do anything they want. So even though his life, he's like, man, I wish I could go outside. At least he's like, hey, I get the chance to go outside and do stuff. And so this survey that in this area, there's these levels of people. There's the Lord up here, you can do whatever you want. Then there's people that have got money, they can do everything they want. Then you got these people who can kind of do whatever they want, in the land. And then there's low group of people who's nope, you can't do anything you want. So it's very confusing. There's lots of different levels here. Make sure water bottles where they stay. Get rid of all. Move to point two.
Okay.
Stop back up. All right. And finally, Rye Rollins' great wooden two-story hall with its spacious upper loft for the women. Evan's lord was a landowner of some means, though not as powerful or wealthy as his ill-tempered neighbor Griffin. Rywalla was still well off, with hundreds of sheep and scores of cattle. He owned more than 30 Irish-born slaves, and nearly that many serfs were under oath to work his land and shops. Although it was twilight, the gate remained open. A freckled slave boy stood watch while the music of a harp drifted through the yard. I wonder what joy the evening holds for us, Uncle Ward had said as they stepped through the wide doors. It was as though they had crossed the threshold into a magical land, surpassing beauty and enchantment, leaving behind the sweat and hunger and back-breaking toil of everyday life. Smoke from the fire pit in the center of the hall drifted through the cavernous room in a warm, dreamy breeze. The oil lamps hung high on their post, cast soft, wavering shadows. Banners of crimson, azure, and gold woven with fantastic dragons and hawks hung from the roof beams. All right, I want you guys to help understand, because some of this stuff can be hard for us to really grasp, because this is a long time ago. Heads up for you. All right. Where, hands up, just raise your hand and tell me. Where's the coolest place you've ever gone to? Like, you walked in and you were like, whoa. Like, just took your breath away. Like, it was so awesome. You were so excited to be there. Where's your favorite place? Okay, I'll come back. Where? Went to Miami? Was there area specific you went to? Just over there, okay. Cruise ship, yeah, that's a big one. Yep. Your aunt's new house. Nice. Disney World?
Yeah.
Disney World, okay.
What's that place called? Oklahoma. I love that.
Oklahoma, okay. Ooh, the Bahamas. Okay. What you did when you got off there, and that feeling you had of how incredible it was, that is what Evan is talking about. He went from out in the mud and the rain and the stinky sheep and the cattle, and then he steps into this building and suddenly it's like all that is gone. And there's this huge magical thing. It's warm in here, there's food, they've got decorations everywhere, and it's a complete opposite of where he just came from. And so that's the feeling he has coming into this thing. So would you be excited coming in? Yeah, you definitely would be. So obviously though, he's probably quite a bit nervous because what does he have to do? Nick? He's got to talk in front of the whole crowd of this place. Would you be nervous?
Yeah.
I'd be very nervous, especially if I couldn't read and I had to memorize it all. Let's find out what happens. Evan greeted the people around him. Everyone in the settlement had looked forward to this gathering for many months. It was an occasion of great joy. So think about Christmas. How exciting Christmas is for us. Okay. Be straight. Gotta make sure it stays in the corner and not touching it. So think about Christmas. That's what's happening right here. This is something they've been looking forward for months. And now it's here, so everyone's super excited. It was an occasion of great joy, and Evan found himself surrounded by smiling faces, friendly chatter, and silvery laughter. The harper, a blind man, sat in a place of honor at Rello's side at the high table. Harp is the type of instrument you play. Today we might have a guitar up there, but during this time they had a harp, and it wasn't as fast, it was more of a soft music. Yes, sir.
I know what
Yeah?
I've seen one.
Where have you seen a harp at? Oh, it's on a museum, nice. And they're all different sizes too. You could have a harp that's like way up here and like all the way over there, or you have like a small harp that's just right here and you can play. So there's lots of different types of harps. It's really cool. The aroma of boiled venison mingled with that of warm, fresh baked bread. Platters of cheese and last year's apples adorned the tables. Slaves bustled around, bearing pitchers of honey-flavored meat. Ah, Uncle Morgan said, choosing a little honey cake from his table. Rywallow always knew how to celebrate the high feast. Estri, the spring festival, named after the Saxon goddess of the dawn and fertility, was from the old pagan days. It was a sign that the hunger of the long winter months was drawing to an end. Since the Christian monks had come, it was regarded as a celebration of Christ's resurrection from the dead. Sometimes the ancient customs and names refused to fade away. Rather than begin feuds, the Christian priests felt it wise to join the old with the new. So Estri, it had remained. But not everyone was Christian. Even now there were tribesmen further up the hills who clung to the ancient ways of the Druids. And down in the seaports lived many with Viking blood who still swore by Thor. But Rywallow was a Christian and had seen to it that all his serfs and slaves were likewise baptized. Here in Rywallow's den, they honored only Christ. So after planting himself comfortably on a bench at one of the long trestle tables, Uncle Morgan raised his mead-filled drinking bowl, set it before him, and made his first toast to our risen Lord. A jubilant shout of agreement rose to the rafters. Drinking horns were thrust out to be refilled, and soon the talk throughout the hall returned to a noisy murmur, like the buzzing of a beehive. So right here, we're going to stop. So we're at a celebration. And this celebration specifically, it's interesting how they say it because it's a Christian celebration for them, but it wasn't always that. It was an older, and so instead of coming in, when the priest came in and said, you know what, you take this, you take this, you see this holiday you have, get rid of it. They said, well, the time of it falls in line with the resurrection of Christ, so let's adopt that. So now instead of celebrating this old tradition, we're still using the same time, but we're just going to change it now to the resurrection of Christ. So it's really interesting to see how it plays out. There's still lots of different people here. But we're going to stop here. We're not going to do a journal summary on this today. But what I need for you to do is we are going to do our